Airing on offthehooksports.com, your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. The Off the Hook podcast at offthehooksports.com or Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you go for your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Off the Hook with Dave Hooker starts now.
Well, just like the great voice guy said, please like, share, and subscribe, especially like. That way we show up in your feed more often, and set your notifications on, whether you're on Twitter or Facebook or Spotify or Apple, but in particular YouTube. We want those notifications on when you subscribe so you see what we have and you get sneak peeks all the time. A big show on tap. We continue with Ethan Stone's countdown of the most important balls as we're well into single digits. Also, some news from around the nation, and Tennessee gets its VOLS back, the Vols, on Neyland Stadium. So we'll talk some traditions there, talking Cruton as we are right in the middle of it, and on or off the hook, a poll question today as well. Got a lot going on. So Amanda and Ethan were nice enough to fill in for me yesterday as a little bit of a medical procedure. I'm all good. I know that you guys were worried, kind of on the edge of your seat the whole time, but I'm fine. Thank you. Good morning. How are you, Amanda?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well. And how are you, Ethan?
I'm doing great. I'm loving the rain. So
yeah. By the way, if you're and I do happen to be in the Knoxville community now, be very, very careful out there. I mean, there is standing water, so I don't know when you're listening, but just please be mindful of that. In the world of podcasts, you might be listening on July the 27th. I don't know, but as of July the 7th, it is raining a lot harder than I expected. On my drive up, I didn't see any rain, and now bingo bango, here we are. So, guys, some news I wanted to get to, but first, when it comes to storm anxiety and Ava, Amanda's little punt-worthy dog, is what? I just said punt-worthy. That means
she's not punt-worthy. That would mean that she's a butthead.
Baseball. A baseball is not punt-worthy, so it has.
She's not a football.
It has enough mass and size where it's punt-worthy.
No,
so
she just walked out of the room.
Oh, sorry. Well, it's because she's got the craft treats and she's enjoying it. But truly, this is the type of weather that you need craft treats. Tell us about craft treats.
Okay, so my dog hates literally I've tried a bunch of CBD treats for her, and she does not like the taste of them at all. We tried to fly with her, and we had to basically shove them down her throat. I opened this bag, and here she is, like right there. It's the craziest thing because she's so picky. So it's insane. I love them. It's great.
Awesome. My dogs did the same thing on July the 4th, actually. So, well, I say my dogs. I have one dog, and then I have my wife's boss's dog for some reason in my house. We're turning into house sitters. So I have no idea why, Ethan. But yeah, so Ethan, as we talk some Tennessee football recruiting here momentarily, I do first want to touch base with your countdown that is ongoing, and we're getting to some real important guys now. So the countdown is at offthehooksports.com, and what can you tell us about where we are and where we might go?
Yeah, yesterday we had Jerome Carvin at number 5, so we're within the top 5. Carvin, you can read all about him. I'll tell him a little small bit about him. He's a fifth-year guy on the offensive line, returning 4 of its 5 starters. And in my opinion, him and Darnell Wright are going to be the guys carrying it down and kind of keeping everyone humble. And I feel like the real leaders of this offensive line. So go check that out on offthehooksports.com. And then number 4 will be today, number 3 tomorrow, obviously. And then we'll have the final 2 next week on Monday and Tuesday.
Are you just going to roll out the final 2? Because if you roll out 2 and it's not Hooker, everybody's going to say Hooker.
So I'm going to keep the final 2. I'm going to keep you guessing because I think it's pretty obvious who it's going to be by the time the 3 comes out, who the top 2 are going to be. So I'll keep everyone waiting on Saturday and Sunday, those that diligently read the preseason countdown spotlight.
Also,
But
preseason opponents we have. We had one on Ball State that Ethan turned this week is very good, and we will visit with a gentleman who works for the Locked On Sports, Nick Farabaugh. He covers Pitt, so we'll get his thoughts on the Pitt Panthers and that matchup. So we'll have another preview for you this week. Also coming up this week, some latest recruiting news, and we'll get to talk recruiting here. That Amanda, there are a couple of things that I want to get your opinion on, and Ethan, you as well. But when you look at the national news scene, you've got a guy in Baker Mayfield who gets traded to the Panthers for what may be a fourth-round pick, but probably a fifth-round pick. It is bizarre how quickly things can change. And listen, if I'm Browns fan today, I feel like that it's just kind of like foot to the ground, go get Deshaun Watson and a contract that's super friendly to what he may have done, and let's just try to win as soon as you can before Jimmy Haslam expires. And it just feels like they're making a bunch of hasty, may not be the right word, Ethan, but a bunch of very decisive decisions quickly. Is that a good way of putting it?
I'd definitely say so. Just for those listening, also the reason he cut out is because the thunder overtook his mic a little bit
Oh,
ago.
yeah, that's always
It
nice.
is it is thundering at the moment. So if you just randomly hear Dave stop talking, it's not because he's not talking. It's because it is thundering a storm outside, quite literally. But as far as Baker Mayfield goes, I, I mean the Panthers have so many quarterbacks on their roster now. Not necessarily good quarterbacks, but just quarterbacks. And they got PJ Walker, who shined in the USFL. I think, I don't know. There were so many of those. It might have been the XFL at this point. They got Matt Corral. They have obviously Sam Darnold, and now they have a recent or past number one pick in Baker Mayfield, and it's going to be quite the I guess quarterback battle is the right word for it. I would think it's Baker's immediately, but you just never know with how he's been playing recently. I would still think of those four, he's the most proven, so he's probably going to be the starter week one. But it's an interesting move in my opinion because you got at least two dudes that could probably go out there and at least fill in.
Yeah, I would think. Amanda, I brought this up a couple of days ago because I felt like it was getting ready to get big. And now you have Brittany Griner's wife who is trying to get support to get Brittany Griner back home. Again, don't want to go politics. I just don't think this is a good place for Brittany Griner to be in right now. I'd say that Joe Biden is a little bit more concerned about oil prices and the economy and everything else than Brittany Griner. I think she should be back. I think that the U.S. should fight for people like that when they're being oppressed, and I believe that's what the Russian government is doing. But at the end of the day, you have to go through a long list of things that if you're Joe Biden, you need to take care of before Brittany Griner.
Well, regardless of how you feel about politics or, the Russian government or what have you, the war that's going on over there, it's like I've said before, she's not a priority. She's not. And if that tells you anything, it's the little people don't matter. Let's be honest. That's really all I got on that.
I mean, if this were Michael Jordan, we'd be having a way. He'd already be back.
Well, yeah, we would have sent over our Marine Corps to get him back if we had to. But on the Deshaun Watson thing, this is the third or fourth group that's found nothing criminally wrong with his behavior.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna say I'm glad I stuck to what I said before.
You have defended Deshaun Watson like no one else.
I didn't defend him. I defended the law. I defended the innocent before you're proven guilty.
Well, okay. To me, I find it really hard to say that you're innocent if you ask a masseuse to sign a non-disclosure agreement right after said session. But we can all believe what we want to. But you're right. The legality, he's not been brought down quite yet, and we'll see if that even happens. It's cost him a lot of money. He's paid something. And I do think there's probably a big, huge monster gray area of consensual or not consensual, of jumping on board to get more money. Where the truth is, we'll probably never know. There are just too many people. The truth of the matter is, you can get fantastic food at Big Orange Philly. Check out Big Orange Philly. It is right there in the heart of Halls on Maynardville Pike. They've got the quick bites. They know it's tough to get out of the office for a long lunch, so they've got quality food fast. You can grab something cold from the fridge or order hot from the counter. Fresh ingredients, too. Casual shouldn't mean stale. And stay a while with darts, billiards, live entertainment, and karaoke. That, again, is on Maynardville Pike, right in the heart of Halls. Easy to get to. And the other thing that I want to bring up before we get to some recruiting is that Shohei Ohtani extended his 0 earned run streak to 4 starts. Okay, and I don't want to overspeak on this, Ethan, but Shohei Ohtani is one of the greatest athletes of this generation. I mean, he's hitting homers with the best of them. He's one of the best pitchers. I mean, I just don't feel like he gets enough pub. Is it because he's West Coast?
You would kind of think so, right? I mean, Ichiro, I feel like was very popular with people.
Yeah.
He's a different type of player, obviously, than Shohei Ohtani, who I would agree with you, at least right now, is one of the more impressive athletes you see in a long time, because obviously these athletes are doing incredible things and doing things that the average person could never really dream of doing. I feel like Otani is doing things that professional athletes can't really dream of doing, and being an ace pitcher while being, one of the truly better hitters in the game when you whittle it down to it. So I mean, it's just incredible watching them. It's fun. I'm not an Angels fan by any means, but if they're on, I'm gonna watch them usually. If there's nothing else happening, I'll watch the Angels. Just some Los Angeles baseball, just to see what happens there.
It is an incredible point that he brings up, Amanda. When we watch Otani, Ichiro was very, very popular even on the West Coast in Seattle. But didn't we all kind of maybe feel like we could do what Ichiro is doing? He's just hitting singles and doubles. I mean, I know we couldn't, okay, but with Shohei Ohtani, we look at him, we say it doesn't matter how many steroids or growth hormones or whatever. I could never be one of the best pitchers and one of the best power hitters in baseball tomorrow. I mean, there's just no way that that's going to happen. He just seems irreproachable.
Well, I think it's also people have a lack of interest in the MLB because of whenever you hear of somebody doing these things, like one of the best pitchers, one of the best hitters, it's only a matter of time before it comes out that they're taking HGH or steroids, whatever. Because I think we've been through that for so long that that's what we're expecting. So I think a lot of people, when it comes to baseball, it's like, oh, he's great, he's whatever, but are we going to go through this again where he's taking something? I'm not suggesting that he is, but I think people are wary of that kind of thing. Like, I think they're wary of like, well, let's not get too attached because here in a minute it's going to come out that he's on some kind of enhancement.
I think we should be wary because Major League Baseball is going to juice the ball to make it better. They're going to do all that kinds of stuff, and I get that. I mean, I think it's always good to be wary. I don't think you're going to see some sort of mass cheating scandal like you saw before, because I think Major League Baseball realized that is how much that hurt them. But by the same token, almost saved them from the strike. So you could argue that steroids in baseball were a good thing. I know that sounds bizarro.
It made it better. It made it more interesting.
I can remember my wife and I pulling over on the side of the road at an O'Charlie's, if they're still in business, to see Mark McGuire hit a home run and break Roger Maris's record. And we stood there. I mean, that was, when you pull over and you go out of your daily way to find a television. And I had to find a television that to be able to watch that. And my wife was even into it. That's culture shifting. I mean, that crosses a lot of boundaries. You don't
I
need.
actually saw two of his home runs live. I was in St. Louis.
Oh, that's
Just
cool.
FYI. Yeah,
Did you see
it's really
the
cool.
one that broke the record was like the least entertaining one he ever hit. It was just like a line drive over the left field fence. It barely cleared. The rest of them like these towering shots.
Yeah,
Um, it was funny that the one that he hit for the record is, I don't want to say anticlimactic. I mean, you break a record like that, it's pretty awesome. They're breaking records all the time as far as saving you money at the mattress place. 30 to 70% off, and that's no gimmicks. It's Marine Corps owned, and if you look at their Better Business Bureau rating, they are through the roof. They are just that awesome. And the mattress place today brings you Talking Cruton, because we've got that. Talking Cruton is right now brought to you by the mattress place.
Talking Cruton.
Am I right or am I right or am I right?
Who's on Tennessee's board? The names you need to know exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker.
All right, so some things to know as we talk some Cruton. 4-star athlete Cameron Seldon is scheduled to announce later today. I'm going to get Ethan's thoughts on all these guys. And then 4-star offensive tackle Shamrod Umarov is scheduled to go tomorrow. And then 2023 3-star linebacker Jalen Smith is scheduled to go on the 10th. So what do you think of those three guys and Tennessee's chances, Ethan?
I would say most important for Tennessee right now should be Cameron Seldon. And obviously that's for two reasons. That's because it's today, if you're listening July 7th on Thursday, that he commits between Tennessee, Penn State, who are the two kind of front runners, and then Maryland is also in there as well. Penn State's, I feel like, the team that has been going for him the hardest for a while, and he had a couple crystal balls for the Nittany Lions, and then just out of nowhere, seemingly a couple days ago, it switched to Tennessee, and people were saying that Tennessee was the front runner for it, and that it was Tennessee's to beat for the services of this 4-star guy. I'm top 150 guy in the nation. I think he's a top 30 wide receiver, and I mean, Tennessee needs that wide receiver. I've said it on here before. Nate Spillman is currently their only wide receiver of the 2023 class, of the 2023 cycle anyway. And they miss out on Carnell Tate earlier. They miss out on Malik Benson a little while ago to Alabama. They're probably going to miss out on Aiden Mizell to Florida. So for Tennessee to swing and miss on another guy potentially like Cam Seldon, that would be major, major problems.
Scouts love Seldon too, and I'm not in the business, Amanda, of telling kids where to go to school, but it would be a shame if he went to Penn State, because at best at Penn State, he would be the one go-to guy they put all over the field, which there's nothing wrong with that. But he's not going to be complimented by other great skill position players. I think he fits in at Tennessee, and he's incredibly good from the get. But I don't tell where kids to go, Seldon or Amanda, but I think Seldon should end up at Tennessee.
Well, I think between the two, I would see going to Tennessee as a better opportunity just because of the coaching. You know, you have Josh Heupel here, and he's really all in. Like, you can tell he's all in for Tennessee. He's going to stick around. I feel like James Franklin, he went to Penn State from Navy. Is that right? I'm pretty sure.
James Franklin, what?
He went to Penn State from Vanderbilt.
Yes.
He was at Vanderbilt, because I remember all those tweets, and I was like, there's no way y'all got into Vanderbilt, but that's neither here nor there. Him being who he is, I feel like, as we talked to Mike Farrell about the coaches wanting to leave to go to the NFL because of all the NIL and all this stuff, I could see him jumping ship really quickly. I'm just saying, that's how I feel about it. He could jump ship, go to the NFL, and then all of his players are just stuck. So if I were this kid, I'd probably go to UT, honestly.
I just think the offense, I don't even think it's close, Ethan. I just think the offense, I think he'd have a far better experience on the offensive side of the ball than he would at Penn State.
Not to mention the Nittany Lions have 2 wide receiver commits already in the 2023 class. None of them are as highly ranked as him, and coaches don't care about rankings really at all, at least to a certain extent. So He would still be the number one guy of their cycle right now, but they have two. Tennessee has one, and he's their lowest rated commit as of right now. So if you want to look at it like that, if you want to look at it from a competition standpoint, he would have less competition at Tennessee in likely an offense that will play to his strengths more. He's really more of an athlete that is considered to be a wide receiver more than a wide receiver that is considered to be a wide receiver. And I feel like going forward, I would agree with you guys. I think Tennessee seems to be the obvious choice here, but you just never know. And the crystal ball from Steve Wiltfong of 24/7, that usually is not wrong. So we'll find
So
out
what is?
today.
I'm curious. What's he saying?
Wiltfong?
Yes.
Yeah,
Or
he's got a crystal ball for him to go to Tennessee. It flipped a little while ago.
Oh, so this just recently flipped.
It was like 2 days ago. Let me make 100% sure it was Wiltfong. I'm almost
Okay.
positive it was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that I think Steve, even though we couldn't get him connected on Tuesday, I think he does a great job. So he very well.
The answer is yes. It was him, and he'll be announcing today on CBS Sports HQ.
I got you. Well, it's kind of a journalistic debate there, and I've been a part of that with ESPN. The kid tells you where he's going, so you can pre-write it and have it ready, and then. But really, is that journalism? If you know and you don't tell, it's kind of. It went back and forth like 2 times in a 2-year contract, 3 or 4 times in a 2-year contract, I should say. I'll tell you who doesn't go back. He doesn't have to. He does it right the first time. Steve Ray. Steve Ray's Midnight Oil in Ottawa, and right next door is Owl's Nest Barbecue. Whoa, Owl's Nest Barbecue has the rubs, the chips, the pellets, and the fantastic grills to take care of you. So, poll question today is brought to you by Owl's Nest Barbecue and Steve Ray's Midnight Oil. Where are we kind of leaning here? Do we have any thoughts right now?
As far as
Any
what?
sort of poll question. I was thinking. Here's what I was leaning towards. What, excuse me, is the best? I got 3 directions. Best overlooked tradition, best Tennessee tradition, or best SEC tradition. Obviously, I'm playing off the VOLS, being back on Neyland Stadium where they're supposed to be, which would be the East, right? No, South end zone. So, Amanda, I know you've got a lot of culture in other SEC schools. I have experience with other SEC schools. So where do you guys want to go? Do you guys want to go most overlooked or underrated?
I think we should do just best straight up. All 3 of us pick one, and then have the people decide.
The best tradition in the SEC.
I was gonna say college football.
Oh,
yeah, there's a lot of good ones.
Too many.
You can stay in the SEC if you want to. These are just our 3 favorites.
Let's go SEC.
I think we should go Tennessee, and then once we get that narrowed down, we can make another one for SEC.
Yeah, let's do Tennessee for now. I need to think on the entire SEC. That's why I say that. That's a lot.
It's a lot of
there's a lot. Okay, so Tennessee for me is really, really easy, and it's the checkerboard end zones. And I think it's because they look old school, but they stuck with it since Doug Dickey put them into place in the mid-'70s. They've stuck with it long enough, or late 60s. They've stuck with it long enough where it's kind of a cool thing now. And if somebody else does it, you say, oh, they're copying Tennessee's checkerboard end zones. So I've always thought that was an underrated cool thing. It's easy just to put the name of your school in your end zone, but I like the checkerboard end zone. I always thought that's cool.
Are we doing
copyrighted?
Are we doing underrated or best? It's a difference.
There is a difference.
Best.
I'm gonna go with that's the best and underrated.
Okay.
Both for me.
We'll go
if we're doing best, well, Amanda, you can go first.
I have 2.
Yeah,
Tennessee.
I do too.
So the checkerboard is actually like copyrighted or trademarked or whatever it's called. I didn't know that. I found that out later on. Like you can't reproduce it without Tennessee's consent. And I was like, that's It's really random. It's just orange and white squares, but that's fine. Um, I think the two I would say would be running through the T, the power T on the field, and then also actually I have three, I'm sorry. Then also fall walk and then the circle drill. Circle drill kills everybody. Like all the schools love it. If they say they don't love it, they're lying because I get so excited to see the circle drill. I'm not gonna lie. It's the
Are we
coolest
talking
thing.
about Are we talking about the Omaha drill where you have two guys going after each other? Or are we talking about
No,
You've seen the
band. The
circle drill, right?
band.
I was in
Oh,
circle drill one year.
okay. I thought we were
Yeah.
talking football. I was like, well, they did have this thing where you would run around circles in a figure eight to improve your lateral ability. I thought that was fun. Okay, lesson learned. Okay, the circle drill would be one. Tennessee's band in general could be one vote.
I
Ethan,
was just about to say that. That's going to be mine is the pregame, the whole 10-minute, 20-minute pregame from the Pride. That's my favorite part.
yeah. Critics
I mean,
among us.
it kind of leads into running in the tee, but the whole thing is cool if you watch it all. I mean, they play the other team's fight song. They do the salute to America. They do down the field. It's awesome. The whole thing. It's
Oh,
awesome.
I agree. I agree. No, the critics among us might say the best Tennessee traditions or most prominent ones are cannibalizing their own. It seems like when everybody leaves that they're hated. I mean, have you ever
Oh, I was like,
noticed
where are
that?
we going with
Every
that?
I was very confused. I was like, we got to
every
land the plane
person
here,
that
Dave.
leaves is hated, for instance. I mean, just forever.
I'm not sure I agree with that. To be honest,
Peyton left.
people love Peyton. People love
Peyton,
Josh
everybody
Dobbs.
fusses about Peyton being at sports.
Well, they don't hate him. They don't actually hate him for it.
No, they don't
Okay,
hate
but you look
him.
at this. So people.
I mean, Todd Helton. We could throw out
Let's
Bernard
go.
King.
Oh,
There's
well, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you can't find some, but
Alvin
if
Kamara.
you go back to the big names, if you go back to, let's say, Doug Dickey went to Florida, so he was hated when he left. Johnny Majors talked bad about Philip Fulmer for years after he was fired. Philip Fulmer came back and hired Bullethead, so he was disliked. It just seems like Tennessee has a way of ending things poorly with people. Is that a better way of putting it? That's not a tradition.
That's a better way
It's
of
not a
putting it.
tradition.
That's a better way of putting it. I definitely wouldn't say fans just hate everyone that graduates from the university, but that is a good way to putting it, I guess, because I feel like when people leave, there are some, like, I mean, Henry To'oTo'o, for example. That one, in my opinion, was slightly warranted, but people did not like him for a long time. People
He
did
went
not
to
like Fulmer.
Alabama.
I mean, then again, Lane Kiffin is kind of, because, like, I feel like people don't really hate Lane Kiffin here. Not anymore. I feel like he's just become a meme.
Yeah,
You know what I
he
mean?
has over the past 6-8 years. Yeah,
Like, they hated him at first, obviously, but like
Yeah.
right now, I think you'd be pressed to find a Vol fan that genuinely despises Lane Kiffin.
Oh,
Okay,
I found a few.
I mean, there's
stay
some
on
of them
track.
in every.
So what are our choices? Checkerboard. What else?
I say let's combine. No, circle drill
What
and the
about the
pregame are
maimed
so.
marching horse?
The what?
Who?
The maimed marching horse. The Tennessee walking horse. You have to maim it to get it to do that. You have to abuse it, physically abuse it.
You're really on the side of Tennessee fans today, aren't you?
I'm not. I'm telling you that you can be a Tennessee fan and not root for the Tennessee walking horse because you have. If I told you what you had to do to that horse, Amanda, you would be totally on my side.
I mean, I'm sure I would, but we don't need to bring that up. That is not a tradition.
Okay. The
Okay.
Tennessee walking.
So I've got checkerboard, circle drill, and pregame. What's the other one? What's the last one?
Fall
walk.
Vol walk. Cool. Yeah, that's probably the right answer.
We'll throw those up there. And that's brought to you today by our friends at Owl's Treat or Owl's Nest. And you need to be sure and check them out at Owl's Nest. They are absolutely fantastic when it comes to all of your barbecue needs. So Owl's Nest Barbecue and Steve Ray's Midnight Oil right there in Ottawa. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you about a gentleman called Gary Vols right there on beautiful Callahan Drive. He will take care of you with integrity at Vols Automotive Group.
It's Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Callahan Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Joined by a very special guest. He has been waiting patiently, and we certainly appreciate that. Nick Faribault. Nick, how did I do on your last name? Because my last name's Hooker, which is easy, but it's embarrassing.
No, you got it perfectly. So don't worry about it. A lot of people get it wrong. You nailed it.
All right, cool. I feel good about myself. So, Nick, you cover Pitt football with Locked On Sports and a number of other different media outlets. Tell us about how we can follow your work.
Yeah, so you can watch my work at the Locked On Pitt podcast. I obviously have a daily podcast over there, as we do with all the Locked On shows. I'll talk everything Pitt there. Wherever they are, I am pretty much. I also cover Pitt for Pittsburgh Sports Now, so write a lot of recruiting stuff. Obviously, player interviews, whatever we can get our hands on over there. So I am writing all about Pitt, and Pitt kind of consumes my life, to be quite honest with you at this point. So make sure to follow my stuff over there.
Well, they can do that. And, of course, Tennessee and Pitt will play this upcoming football season on what is essentially the Johnny Majors Classic, if you want to call it that. He's no longer with us, but a great man. And I was curious what Pitt fans think of this game. I mean, is that too long ago for them to kind of realize what this means to this rivalry?
Well, I think some of the older Pitt fans definitely appreciate it. The younger Pitt fans probably don't understand the Johnny Majors. Listen, man, if you're a younger Pitt fan, how do you understand Pitt? Do you understand it as Johnny Majors Pitt, or do you understand it as a 7-5 annual program, right? So, just to be quite blunt with Pitt there, man, I mean, that's the glory days, right? We're not in Tony Dorsett, Dan Marino era anymore. So that's kind of how everyone has grown up around Pitt. But I think there's definitely an admiration around Johnny Majors. This game, I was walking around Pitt's campus the other day, and there's a corner store right by the Cathedral of Learning that sells a ton of Pitt merchandise, and they're selling Johnny Majors classic shirts and different types of jerseys and stuff and merchandise. So this is a game I think that has legitimate buzz. Johnny Majors obviously has a lot of buzz among, I think, older Pitt fans that definitely remember that. I think that a lot of Pitt people love Johnny Majors, obviously, for what he did for the program and the guy he was for the program. I also think that this is just a fun matchup in general for Pitt fans. I mean, Pitt doesn't play SEC teams all that often. They have really one Power 5 opponent every year. Past years, it's been Oklahoma State, UCF, if you really want to count them. But Tennessee's a fresh matchup, and I think that also is to the intrigue of this. It's a really fun home series that I think that's going to be a really fun one. If anything says how fun it was, last year's game was a ton of fun. So hoping for similar things this year.
Yeah, if you need somebody, I know Ethan's going to jump in here, and I know Amanda wants to as well. But if you need somebody on your podcast to do a Johnny Majors impression, I do a really, really good one, knowing him for a couple of years. So if you need that, I can throw out something like, it's got a Ethan Stone. He's like a hat without a cowboy. All right, go ahead, Ethan. I'm sorry. Hat without a cowboy, no substance. But he has substance. So sorry,
I feel like we'd all forgive you if you just forgot that last 30 seconds.
That was one of Johnny Major's favorite things. He's like a hat without a cowboy. And in other words, he's not getting his job done. The same thing as walk
Let
off.
it go. Let it go.
Incredible.
All
right,
you laugh. All right,
I feel like I gotta ask, and you have to have expected this question is coming. What does Pitt do moving forward without Kenny Pickett? I mean, that's obviously an enormous loss for them, but how do you see them bouncing back?
Yeah, well, the answer before the end of April was rely on Jordan Addison, and then they lost him too to the portal. And so really Pitt loses the two best players on their offense. That was obviously one of the best offenses in the entire nation last year. And Kenny Pickett, was special in his ability to create outside of structure. Tennessee knew that better than anyone. That big time touchdown in the red zone where he threw across his body on a 3rd and 12 down in the red zone was huge. And Pitt consistently made plays like that. And now the wide receiver one's gone. And so is Pitt's tight end one. Lucas Kroll graduated. So he's in the NFL now, right? Now, what does Pitt have bringing back? They bring back their entire offensive line, which is going to be what they lean on a lot. The entire offensive line is back. They're all super seniors. So this is a very experienced and a good offensive line. That's what you're going to rely upon. Also back, just about the entire running back room. So I think, you look at what Pitt has done this year. They lose Pickett, they lose Jordan Addison, and they lose Mark Whipple. The offensive coordinator switch is also something you can't overlook. Frank Signetti's now in there. Will they run similar stuff? Probably, but they might run the ball a little bit more. I'm thinking, Israel Abanikanda, Rodney Hammond. They have a good stable of backs there with 5 guys that I think all could play at a decent level. We really don't know how that room is going to work out right now because Daniel Carter, who was the de facto running back 4, was the most improved player in the spring. Then they bring in Notre Dame transfer Sebo Flemister. So it's like they're building up a super running back room right now, which is interesting. And then the wide receiver position. I mean, that's going to be a question. And obviously, quarterback. Keaton Slovis is a really fun player. And that's kind of your big thing is how good is Keaton Slovis going to be? Is he last year like he was in USC, which was not good? He was not a good player last year. Or do we see 2019, 2020 Keaton Slovis, which is a different player from Kenny Pickett? He could probably make more of those high upside NFL throws because he probably has a stronger arm. But what Keaton Slovis do you get? If you get really good Keaton Slovis, Pitt could be just as good as last year. It just depends on which type of Keaton Slovis they get. But the good thing is they have that veteran offensive line to protect him and allow him to stay in the pocket. So the transition is obviously there, but this is going to rely upon Keaton Slovis, his ability to not kill Pitt and just manage the game, and maybe a running game that's kind of going to burgeon out from this. I don't think you're going to see a game like you saw last year from Pitt. I think you're going to see them run the ball a little bit more.
It's crazy you answer that because that was going to be my next question is how do you think it's going to fare similarly or differently from last season, especially being obviously in Pittsburgh instead of Knoxville this time around?
Yeah, well, listen, September 10th in Pittsburgh can be anything on the weather scale. We're talking anything from 40 to 30 degrees to 90 degrees. I mean, we are talking about it could be a monsoon. It could be a beautiful sunny day where you have a great breeze coming off the Three Rivers. It could be snowing. It is a crazy outcome thing right there. So I don't know if it's going to be different weather-wise, but what it will be different is Pitt, first of all, this is going to be a big game for Pitt, especially if they come off a week 1 win against West Virginia. If you beat West Virginia in the backyard, bro, it's going to be a hyped up matchup, right? National game. This is a potential season opener for Pitt that just bolts them into the top 15, top 10, and then Pitt's getting all this hype, and that's what Pitt wants. So this is going to be a huge game. So you're probably going to have a really good atmosphere. You're probably going to see Pitt come out and maybe be a little bit sharper than they were in week one. I said running the football is going to be their big thing. And as Pat Narduzzi's teams have always been, their MO is going to be defense. And that's the big thing here is they return almost the entire defense. The only two players on this defense that they significantly lost was Damari Mathis, who is their corner one, which is significant, but they have a nice group of corners coming in there, and Keyshawn Camp there. They also revamped their linebacker room a little bit to try and upgrade on those guys. But this is a defense-first team, and this defense has a potential to be really, really good. So the question, I think, this year could be maybe it's a slower game. Maybe it's not, the whole up-tempo thing on both sides. Obviously, on Tennessee's side, it will be. But maybe Pitt tries to slow this down, ground and pound a little bit more, and try and wear down Tennessee, take a little bit off of Keaton Slovis, play with defense, force turnovers, stuff like that. I think you're going to see a little bit of a more balanced style from Pitt.
So I have a couple of questions. First of all, just a fun one. Way too early score prediction for this game. Wow. What do you have?
Yeah, it's a tough one because, again, it's like Keaton Slovis is this great unknown. And I could guess anywhere from 48 to 45 to if they do that grind out type of style and Tennessee tries to go up tempo, we could be talking more in the 30-ish range. I say a good guess right now is, last year's was 41-34. I say this year, let's say like 35-31, somewhere around there. I think it'll be a little less scoring. I think there will be a lot of scoring in this game. I think these are both going to be two really good offenses. And obviously, I think Hendon Hooker and that entire group in this very talented Vols offense in another year under Josh Heupel and all of that is going to be a really good offense. And Pitt has had trouble in the past stopping this type of scheme. So we'll see how that works out. But I think, you're going to get points. I think it's going to be a tough, close game. I see this one being another really fun game. So I'll go 35-31.
Or is it Pitt over Tennessee, 35-31?
Tentatively, I think I'll take Tennessee, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering which one you're going to take on that. So last question, this conference realignment thing, like we all know it's headed everywhere. I mean, it's going to encapsulate everyone at some point. What do you see happening with Pitt if the ACC decides to break up and go separate directions?
That's the age-old question, because I think Pitt's in a very interesting spot where this season matters a lot for Pitt, is what I'll say. Because let's say they go to the ACC championship. Heck, they win the ACC championship again, right? Then you got to start putting Pitt up there with a big-time brand. They're building something. And I don't know how that is, but if we're standing here right now, I think the obvious fit for Pitt is the Big 12. I think joining West Virginia, joining Cincinnati, all those teams, you could probably bring Louisville with you. You can bring some other ACC teams in there. And you can have like a old Big East type conference, of Virginia Tech maybe in there. Obviously, the Big 10 would be, I think, the best fit for Pitt if they're going to one of those super conferences. You renew that Penn State rivalry. Notre Dame probably comes with you. And you get to maybe forge new rivalries with Ohio State, not too far from you. Rutgers, because Pitt recruits New Jersey a ton. So you get to forge some new rivalries potentially there. Michigan State is another one. I think those two schools match up really well in terms of their kind of style and their fan bases. So I don't know what's going to happen to Pitt. I think best case scenario for them, they get into the Big Ten. There have been some people that have talked about maybe Pitt to the SEC, which would be crazy to me. I can't see that happening. It's a weird one. The only reason that would happen is because for some reason the SEC would want to get into the PA market. But I think the Big 12 makes the most sense for them. Get in the same conference as West Virginia, make that backyard brawl an annual thing.
Interesting. Nick Faribault, who covers Pitt, does a great job with Locked On Sports and across the board. Be sure and check him out on Twitter. Nick, last thing I got for you, we were talking about great Tennessee traditions and kind of ranking them. What's the most standout Pitt tradition when it comes to football?
Pitt traditions are interesting. Obviously, Sweet Caroline is a big one for them. But the interesting thing about that is so hit or miss with the Pitt fan base. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people love it. It's kind of whatever. It's probably the most recognizable one. The Pitt fight song is another big one, where they incorporate the rivers into it. And, the chant alligating Gannat, Gannat, Gannat is another big one that they do. Pitt tradition wise on the football field, it's not a super traditional school. They've changed and kind of melded to different things, but Sweet Caroline and I think the fight song have been the two big traditions that you look at. And I think those are the two big things that have really kind of melded well with Pitt thus far. They're forging new traditions. The turnover dunk is a big one that everyone loves, and they'll do all that stuff. But I think those are two traditions that are long standing that have deep roots.
Nick, great stuff, buddy. We will talk to you and follow your work. Hopefully, we can hit you up when we get closer to the game. But that was as good of a breakdown as we could have hoped for. I appreciate it, buddy.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Nick Faribault. Again, find him on Twitter and follow his work as he is all about. He's got Pitt covered, and the Locked On podcast is something I would highly recommend as well. So, not as much of a tradition laden school is Pitt, and that's I think why Johnny Majors had such an impact, because able to win a championship there and have a guy like Dorsett. It's actually Dorset, but changed his name. So I kind of thought that maybe the greatest tradition would be changing a player's name from Dorset to Dorset, because it was Dorset. Much like Theismann was Thiesman. Name it Theismann because it rhymed with Heisman. But another good Pitt tradition could just be Dan Marino just snorting an 8-ball a blow.
Wow. Why don't we just throw that out there?
I guess it's one of them.
Well, it's
you
like
are feisty today.
Nothing like a game day tradition. Breaking out the nose dust. He did
I don't
that.
partake in those traditions.
I don't either, but that's why he dropped in the NFL draft. Just a quick history lesson. He was by far the best quarterback there. I think who was taken ahead of him? Oh my gosh, there were some bad ones. Who was the guy at Pittsburgh for a number of years?
I could not tell you.
I will after this. Oh, he had a terrible day, and he was on TV forever, Amanda. Okay.
Who are you talking about?
Yeah.
A guy had no name, and he couldn't play. And
why would I know him then?
This day in sports history after this, back in 2 minutes.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
So, yeah, I found out his name. Todd Blackledge.
Yeah,
I have no idea who that is.
You could have put a gun to my head, and I never would have named that.
Yeah, Todd Blackledge was drafted ahead of Dan Marino.
I would have. Yeah, no.
Seems like a bad decision, considering I haven't heard of it.
In retrospect, yes, that was a bad decision. So I'm trying to figure out, wasn't that the 83 draft where Dan Marino went so far behind everybody else? That was the 83 draft, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Take your word for it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I was born 17 years later.
Well, okay. Well,
oh my gosh.
What year was Dan Marino drafted? Because that was the great quarterback class of 83, right?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I normally don't go.
Start talking 8 balls, and you get flustered and confused. So, the 1983 draft. So the 1983 draft. So here are some of the players that were selected ahead of Dan Marino, who, by the way, is the best pure thrower in the history of mankind. regardless.
Interesting.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Okay,
All
so the
right.
1983 NFL draft. So these are some of the guys that went ahead of Dan Marino. Everybody thought going into that draft that he was going to be the guy, that he was going to be number one. But then the nose candy rumors started coming out, so that hurt him. And I don't think he was an incredibly nice guy to be around, but that's neither here nor there. So here are guys that went ahead of Dan Marino that makes sense. John Elway went number one to the Colts, traded to Denver. Elway's probably the greatest quarterback that ever walked the face of the earth, just from a physical standpoint. So I have no argument with that. Eric Dickerson, huh?
He was good.
Yeah, he's good. And okay, then it gets a little weird. So you have Todd Blackledge going at 7 to the Chiefs from Penn State. He was horrible. Then as far as not to be judgmental, Jim Kelly went 14 to the Bills. Now that was a great pickup, trade from Cleveland. He had a great career. Tony Eason went to the Patriots with the 15th pick. Marino should have gone before him. I think we can all agree there.
Eason was the starting quarterback when the Bears won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he was. That was my first Super Bowl party. I had a bunch of 12-year-old friends. We had a Super Bowl party, and it was over in 5 minutes.
Poor boy got off to a 3-0 lead, and then it was all history from there.
That's right. They did lead 3-0. You're right.
Yeah,
So Kenny O'Brien, who was backed up by former ball Pat Ryan, who I've often said Kenny O'Brien, Pat Ryan, both Irish, both about the same size, both about the same arm. I think they may be the same person. So when Kenny O'Brien would get hurt, he would just switch jerseys and come out as Pat O'Brien. I've said that before, but I don't know if that's true. Dan Marino at 27 to the Miami Dolphins. Can you imagine getting Dan Marino with the 27th pick?
Isn't that what Johnny Manziel went? 27th to the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, I think he did go pretty low, but
so both nose candy, both 27th in the draft. There we go.
I want to think Manziel was lower than that.
No,
I was going to say he was.
I thought Manziel didn't make it out. I didn't think he was picked in the first round.
He was
picked in the first round.
So Atlanta's correct, or Amanda's correct. He was the 22nd pick.
Okay.
22nd?
Second round, too.
I remember him going way later than he was supposed to, so I guess I just internalized that he didn't go in the first round. But
No, he did.
Yeah.
He did. He was trying to get Jerry Jones to take him, Dallas's pick, and
I do remember that being a whole thing. Is him falling that far, and people were like, "He's like a top 5 pick," and it's like, I don't know.
No, he's not. No,
well, I mean, at the time, people thought he was, and
I was like, he's too small.
I mean, there were a lot of people that said he was, though, and so when he kept falling, it was like
he was pretty goofy special. Okay, I mean,
he was fantastic in college. You gotta,
he had enough to me of the hey, I'm really special. So like I would overlook the height.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say that for a lot of guys. This day in sports history, what do you got for us, Ethan? I got one for you that I bet you don't have.
I do too.
Okay.
Mine is 2001, in his first appearance at Daytona since Dale Earnhardt died. Dale Earnhardt Jr. won the Pepsi 400.
I was there. That was mine. I was there. I watched
everybody thought that was fixed because he won right after his dad passed away.
And it was.
He beat Michael Waltrip, who was his teammate, if I'm not mistaken. So I feel like that's why people would have thought it was rigged.
Well, that was the thing about that the way DI had it rolling there is they dominated on super speedways in Talladega and Daytona. So I wasn't ever surprised. I mean, Michael Waltrip, as strange as this sounds, is a 2-time Daytona 500 winner. Huh?
I know that.
That's a race, though, that anybody can win it. I mean, literally, anyone can win it. With the final lap, you have to draft behind people. People will push people. It depends. Like, that's how Trevor Bayne won it. Somebody just got behind him and said, hey, I'll take second in the Daytona 500 instead of falling back to 15th. And that's how he won it, because somebody just drafted behind him. I mean, but you don't go You don't go from 7th to winner in 9 laps. That doesn't happen.
Agreed.
There's a lot of
And
By
I'm not a
yourself.
wrestling guy at all.
Yeah.
But this day, 26 years ago, Hulk Hogan betrayed the WCW and started the NWO with Kevin Nash, who played basketball. Oh, here's one for young Ethan Stone. Who did Kevin Nash play basketball for?
Kevin Nash. Couldn't tell you. No, I'm never gonna guess it. So
The University of Tennessee.
I didn't know that.
Kevin Nash played basketball for the University of Tennessee, and he was kind of one of the big guys and kind of quiet. And he turned out to be a huge, outspoken professional wrestler. It was kind of a surprise a little
Yeah,
bit.
it was very slightly before my time.
Hey, Tennessee likes wrestlers.
That was actually before my time too.
Yeah,
So
no, I was joking.
you got Kevin Nash, who played basketball at Tennessee, and then you got the mayor, Glenn Jacobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kane.
I do know about the mayor.
I like him a lot.
Now, he is one of the smartest individuals I've ever spoken to.
He's great.
I do not mean that with any at all reservation. He is incredibly intelligent.
He takes up a giant, he's big, so he takes up a plane. I was on a plane with him one time, and my husband wouldn't let me go say hi, which I thought was very ridiculous because I don't fangirl on many people, but him I got a little fangirl with, and my husband wouldn't let me say hi or take a picture, so I was like, well, fine, just because he thought I was obnoxious.
With Glenn Jacobs?
Yes, and he took up, here's the seat, right? He took up, the whole, he was just like, and I was like, that poor seat.
Yeah.
It is funny though. I will offer this up real quickly though. That they say all those guys are 7 foot and none of them are. Like in the NBA, if they say you're 7 foot, you're 7 foot. But in the NWA and wrestling, the WWF, everybody's exactly 7 foot. Have you noticed that? There's nobody that's 6'11" or 7'1".
I don't watch it. I've never.
Yeah,
I think it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my
But
life.
I stood next to Glenn. Glenn's huge. Glenn's 6'9", easy.
He is massive.
But he's not 7 foot. But everybody's 7 foot once you make it there. All right. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Please remember to listen and subscribe. We want to provide you more of what you want, and we'll be back tomorrow, and we will have a very special guest on tap. I'm kind of teasing forward, looking forward to that. So check out offthehooksports.com. The countdown continues. Could have a preview of Pitt coming up, I imagine, a little bit later today. And also, we'll continue to look at alignment. So we've got a lot of good sources as far as where the SEC could end up. So I want you to continue to stay tuned to that at offthehooksports.com. Like and subscribe on YouTube, and you will get sneak peeks. It's awesome. Want to be sure and thank Bassey Lawn and Garden and City Heating and Air Conditioning, City Heat and Air, and Bassey.com. And if you're looking for a great place to grab a bite to eat, I encourage you to go out to Big Phillies because we're around the lunch hour now. We're getting close to it, depending on where you are listening. So have a fantastic day, everyone. For Amanda and Ethan, I'm Dave. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.